Welcome to another fascinating episode of the Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I'm joined by my cousin and co-host Landon.
Good day. How you
How's
doing?
it going, man?
How are you doing?
I am doing. It's been I'll tell you what, it's been a long week at work, man. We are really like uh all the events are happening. Things are, preschools are being they're doing the enrollment thing, and so they're having all these events, having parents come out and I tell you what, I can do the events and I can meet people, but by the end of the week, I'm just peopled out. The introvert in me needs to have that decompression time. And let me tell you, this weekend has been a nice, calm chance for me to not do anything. So I've appreciated it. How about you,
You
man?
know, I can relate to that. In my job, I'm face to face with people all day long, whether internal employees, people who report to me, people I report to, or clients, nonstop. Zoom meetings. I also went to Chicago this past weekend for a trade show, got back Tuesday afternoon, and then was catching up. So yesterday and today, it's been, you know what it's been? It's been Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. It's
Nice.
been a Ghostbusters marathon, so the kids could watch, and then we could watch the Frozen Empire, and which we could talk about one time, but I enjoyed. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I like swinging through the city, and
Oh yeah,
just doing a whole bunch of side quests.
it's fun.
I like that.
I can't remember if I told you I played through Spider-Man 2 and beat it, and
Mm.
then went back and played the first one again because I'd never 100% on everything on the first one. So I wanted to
Yeah,
go back and do it. And I remember like I'd gotten so used to all of the moves you can make, like not
and the
just the
new one.
swinging, but the
Yeah,
flying, like the
yeah,
the
yeah.
gliding through the city too. And then you can't do that in the first one. I'm like, oh man, this is
Oh,
not
come
as fun.
on. Yeah, yeah. I'm so dependent upon on gliding and
Yeah.
flying.
Yeah, I'm used to those updrafts now. I'm like, oh, let's keep going, keep going.
It's a great game though. But
It really
yeah,
is.
so that's my time. But today we're going to talk about some Star Trek, and I think you got an announcement from our other podcast, don't you?
I do. It wasn't too long ago that we celebrated our 100th episode, and as part of that, we did a giveaway. And so, with that episode, we talked about Return to Oz, and so we thought, well, we'll give our folks a choice. You get a choice between a graphic novel of Ozma of Oz, which was put out by Marvel several years ago, or the graphic novel, the collected edition of All Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley, that DC did. Gosh, it's probably been almost 20 years ago now that came out. Uh, but All Star Superman, in my opinion, is by far one of the greatest Superman stories ever told. It's part of the inspiration behind what is the upcoming Superman movie from James Gunn,
Yeah.
that's coming out next year. And so all you had to do to win was leave a comment on one of our social media platforms or on one of the podcast platforms or here on YouTube if you're watching it here on the video. We had one person. Guys, where's everybody? Where y'all at? But it's all right because I'm just glad that one person listens and follows directions. We asked you to leave a comment saying what your favorite episode of the Show was and which of these graphic novels you would like if you won. Now, if it had been more than one person, we were gonna, take all of those names and draw one out of a hat. But unfortunately, since it was just one person, or maybe fortunately for that one person,
They
uh,
totally did
all,
it.
all we have to do is just say, "Hey, Noah, congratulations, man! You will soon be receiving this All Star Superman graphic novel in the mail." So,
Yay.
congratulations! Thank you for being a loyal listener. He did say that his favorite episode of ours was the one where we talked about Back to the Future. I can't help but agree with that because it's my favorite movie of all time. So yeah, glad that you have enjoyed
Congratulations,
it.
Noah.
He also left a message on our Ted Lasso episode saying that he is a fan of our shorter um, format that we've gone to, where we
Boom.
try to keep it to around half an hour. So appreciate that feedback as well. Guys, that's all it takes. All you have to do, just be mentioned here on the show, is just let us know what you're thinking. We want to hear from you. It doesn't matter if it's something you want to agree with that we've said, something you want to dispute. If you want to argue with us, that's beautiful. We want to have an argument because that's what makes the world
Argue.
go round. Um, but I'm glad we were able to make that announcement. And like I said, Noah, we will get this in the mail to you. And so you should be receiving this soon. All right. As Landon mentioned, we will be talking about Star Trek today. And we are moving along in our original cast movies with Star Trek V, The Final Frontier,
And
written and directed
hey,
by one Bill
we
Shatner.
will shout. Yeah. Yeah. And you know how the other one, three, was Search for Spock? This one was called Search for Meaning. And but they couldn't land on that one because really it turned out to not seemed to be pointless is really what it was. But
It's meaningless.
we
There is
did
no
discover, the next one's called Undiscovered Country, but in this one we discovered something very, very important about Star Trek. And I don't know if you know this, but William Shatner can't write movies. He can't do that. It's like kryptonite to Superman. The man cannot. That is the writing stuff, even the directing, not his forte.
meaning.
And he learned that lesson. And hats off to you, Bill, because when you know you're good at something, you should stick to it. But when you realize you're not, either you try to overcome that. In this case, you were so below the line that I think that you saved your career by not trying again. So hats off
I
to you.
know I know the movie itself and Shatner was nominated for several Golden Raspberry Awards. I don't know how many they won, but I know it was nominated for Worst Picture, Worst Actor, and Worst Director. And I feel like that's supposed to be hurtful, but I do remember when Halle Berry was given the award for Worst Actress in Catwoman.
Catwoman, right?
She went to the award ceremony and accepted the award and gave a speech. She was proud of herself for winning that award.
Well, are you looking like Ryan Reynolds for Green Lantern? He's just like, own it. I own that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's,
And you've
we don't
got to,
always
right?
do the best things. We make mistakes, but hey, that's how we learn, right?
Have you ever seen those little shorts where it'll be like start like it's a meme and it's like it shows Star Wars and had like they just gone up and just killed Palpatine right at the beginning, then it would have been like the end and it would have the credits, for Star Wars. I think about this movie and how, they're doing the camping and they're doing the row your boat, right, for the camping. And I'm thinking if they had just like ended at that, that would have been a good 5-10 minutes worthy of my time, you know?
Right. Like one of their short treks that they put on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just a little 5 minute blurb of, oh hey, the three main characters they went camping. That's folksy. I've been
That was
camping.
great. There at the end. Yeah, so coming into this movie, obviously anybody listening can tell, not really a fan. Why? Why not really a fan? Well, first of all, I think the premise, at least for me, is rough. You're introducing a character like Cybok, for Spock's brother, and that's okay. I can take a little side lineage, like something comes in from the side that way. That's okay. The
Long lost
problem
half
that
brother that we never knew about.
after all these years, it happens. It happens in a lot of shows and movies. It happens. But the one part that I can't get over is just how the three of them, you've got Kirk and Bones and Spock, don't seem to be on the same page. Um, and I feel like there's the show has constantly been about like Kirk being the one that is trying to pursue and understand adventure and all that stuff. And he has these two advisors, two voices that are often very different voices, but he listens to them for advice. And in this, it felt like it went a different way in their relationship that I wasn't really comfortable with. You know, it felt
Yeah.
like they were not they were not staying true to the characters and the relationship of those three. Maybe that was Shatner's intention, but I didn't enjoy that part.
No, actually I am going to disagree with you on that one. I thought that the those three, that was the for me the high point of the movie.
Really?
If there is such a thing, I don't think there is a high point of that movie, but uh, I thought that their interactions were true to form. Especially when Cybok is trying to pit them against each other. You know, you've his power, if you will, folks at home, if you haven't seen it or if it's been a while, you know, Cybok has this ability to peer into people's minds and extract their fear, extract their anxieties, and he kind of puts them through the ringer in order to do that. And so, in the process of doing this with both Spock and McCoy, uh, you know, it's like he's trying to get them on his side, which is what he does. Like he does that
Right,
with the rest of the crew. He it's like he's started this cult, and so he has managed to get all of these people on his side so that he can commandeer a starship and fly to the center of the galaxy where he believed God exists. That's where he believed God lives, on some planet in the center of the Milky Way. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense theologically, especially now that we know that there's a supermassive black hole in the middle of the galaxy. Um, but it doesn't work. Like
right.
when he's got the three of them, he does manage to extract those fears from Spock and McCoy. He puts them through it with Spock showing him his birth, right?
Right.
And his father's disappointment that he is half human. And then with McCoy, he
It's his
puts him
dad.
through his, reliving his father's deathbed
Terminal illness.
experience.
Yeah.
And so, um, and that's hard. That would be hard for anybody. And, but, William Shatner, Kirk, being his movie, he directed it, he wrote it. He's the one who stands up to Cybok and says that, my fear is what makes me who I am. It's a part of me. I don't want you to take it away from me, which makes sense. But
I,
I
I,
say all
I
that
just,
just to say that I do appreciate in that moment, Cybok thinks he's gotten Spock and McCoy on his side, but they both turn him down and they stay there with Kirk, and they because their loyalty to him
right.
is that strong.
So in the end, yes, they do come back. But to me, I think it would have been more realistic for, I mean, you're talking about Kirk again. We skipped a movie dealing with his son's death, right? Entirely. And so now here we are. And you're talking about your fear, and when we get to six, you get to see Kirk go through that a little, or the continuing effect of his son's death. But I would have thought that that would have been, I could see it with McCoy and I could see it with Kirk, but I just have a hard time seeing Jim Kirk as the voice of reason when his fear. He could have done so much more with David's death here to try
Yeah.
to get him to go. Then it would have been believable for Spock to somehow, have like been affected that way. That's the part that just gets me is, again, I'm so used to Kirk having to be brought to reason. You know what I mean?
Right.
By the people or by some other character or something else. He's just not typically the guy who's the voice of reason. You know what I mean? He's the one who listens to the voice of reason, and then he's the one who takes action and leads and does all this stuff.
And
But
that's where the writing is at fault there. Being the ego that William Shatner is, that's going to play into how he writes his own character.
right,
Um,
as
you
the
know,
voice of reason.
right. Someone else from the outside may look at these three and see it the same way you do. And really I do too. I see it that same way, that you've got not that one is an angel on the shoulder and the other is a devil,
Right,
but
right.
you've
They're
got
different.
logic and you've got emotion, and somewhere in the middle is Kirk.
Right,
Uh, and so, yeah, you got that. But yeah, when you have William Shatner coming in and writing his own characteristics, this is how he wants Kirk to be, not necessarily how Kirk has been portrayed in previous incarnations. It's yeah, it's a little off.
now let me ask you this: who do you think was the best actor or actress in the movie, if there was going to be one?
Uh, is there one?
To me,
The guy
I
who played God?
there you go. I thought Cybok was was pretty good when he was being a confident zealot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And how he was just crazy and cultish and all that stuff. I thought he did a pretty good job with his acting. It was everybody else playing off of him and playing off of a bad script that I thought was pretty rough.
I
So,
understand his maniacal laughter at the beginning. When he rides up, he's on this desert planet, rides up, and this guy's digging in the sand, and they have a little conversation, and then all of a sudden he reveals that he's a Vulcan, and then he starts laughing. Like, what's so funny that you're a Vulcan and you're laughing? That's odd, but you know, I don't get it. I don't get it. Your Vulcan humor does not amuse me.
compute.
Uh yeah, no. Did you know they originally wanted Sean Connery to play that role?
Oh, I'm so glad he did not do that.
Well, he was busy with Last Crusade, thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Um, so
Jeez.
he did not get to be on that sinking ship. But yeah, imagine that movie with Sean Connery as Cyborg. I mean,
Well, I thought that there was a good line. What does God need with a space or a spaceship or start? That's a good line, you
yeah,
know.
that is good.
But that's it.
None of it made any
You
sense.
know, that's pretty much it. I mean, you
Squad
think
needs was a
about the
starship.
premise and the plot, and there's been things of the unknown, and kind of the question of God or the question of rightness and goodness and all of this. I think about the movie Generations that I'm sure we'll talk about along the way here, and just them going to this almost ethereal plane in the Nexus that, you know, is almost heaven-like. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I feel like they deal with that so much better about camping on. But the idea of trying to get to a physical location where God is, it's just the other side too is, I think about V'ger and Star Trek the motion picture going to a place, getting to something, or going to a place to find the heart of what the issue is, has been a staple of Star Trek, in its many different versions. But sometimes, and I think this about the show Supernatural too, with Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki, there's that show kept going too far. And once you get to the part about God and angels and you start going that part, there's really you've overshot. You're too far. You've trying to make something finite that you can't. And if you try to wrap that in a bow, now obviously this is not God, you know what I mean? And he's just,
Right.
a being, but they tried to tackle it. And I believe from what I read, Shatner was trying to make a comment on the craze of the televangelists of the 80s, and prior, right? And to kind of make a statement about these charlatans. But it's like, dude, this is Star Trek. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously.
Social commentary, okay?
Yeah.
We don't need to mix Star
Even
Trek with
Roddenberry
religion.
didn't
It's a
like
little
it.
weird.
I read
No.
that Roddenberry didn't like it, that Leonard
Well, there's a
Nimoy
lot
didn't
about the
like it.
movies that Roddenberry didn't like.
I'm sure. Probably even some of the Star Trek shows that are now he'd be turning in his grave.
Oh, I'm sure. There's Roddenberry. Roddenberry was a conundrum. All right, he was the kind of guy he wanted to believe that the world of Star Trek would have been a utopia, that
Right.
that it was this perfect society, that humanity had evolved beyond the need for violence and the need for uh, materialism and things like that. But the thing is, how can you have a show that exists without conflict? How can you have a movie, a story that exists without? You need conflict in order for a story to be compelling. Am I right? I mean, this is I don't understand where he was coming from. Like, it's a beautiful dream, sure. Very John Lennon Imagine. But let's be realistic here. There's got to be some kind of conflict in order for your story to exist.
Right.
You can't just go around, thinking, "Hey, we're going to fly around the galaxy and there's not going to be any problems going on." You And then when they write a story that has conflict in it, you complain about it. That's not how things work. There was a lot about the movies that he did not agree with. I'd be willing to bet 4 was his favorite one because there wasn't an actual bad guy. Uh
That's a good
yeah,
point.
it was just save the whales and oh, hey, look at that. We have a happy future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think when you especially you get to the next generation and you reveal the plot of a corrupted or a Starfleet that's been infiltrated, you start to
Yeah,
get into this whole idea of things not being what they are. And of course, once you get to Picard, which is very telling for that first season of TNG to Picard in the same way it being this corrupted Starfleet, it kind of all ties together. I think you go Next Generation on, he's probably just going, mm-mm, mm-mm, I don't like it, you know?
but you bring up a funny point. Like I've always wondered. I was like, what happens to people who make it to admiral? Like once they get to admiral, is it like they flip a switch and have to become the bad guy? I mean,
Yes,
because
that's
it
true.
seems like almost every admiral you come across from from Star Trek 6 on,
Yeah, Star
like
Trek, it was good. Yeah, it's
it's like where are these horrible admirals coming from? I mean, apparently they've done a great job throughout their career and they make it to admiral. And the only reason Kirk isn't the evil admiral is because he got demoted back to
he's
captain.
constantly demoted. Yeah, he's constantly going. Yeah. It'd be funny they have like a scene where he's like the admiral now and he's just like, yeah, they try to get me to join their stupid evil cult, but I'm not doing it.
I'd
or,
rather
or
steal a starship than join their stupid cult.
or when the Klingons and the Romulans and the humans are like in cahoots in Star Trek 6, they walk up to each other and have like a secret handshake, you know what I mean? You know? Oh man. You know, you want to know the reason why we've deviated from talking about Star Trek 5?
It's awful.
Because it's awful. There you go. There you go. And with that, do you have any
Yeah.
trivia? Like, what was the worst part of the movie? Or
I feel like that's subjective.
it is very subjective.
What was the what do you think was the worst part of the movie?
The fact that they had it.
Something that bothers me, okay, and then we'll wrap things up and wrap up this episode. But something that bothers me is that, well, something I've admired about Star Trek is that it is in some ways based in realistic science, right? It is sci-fi, it is science fiction, but they do try to bring it back to something a little more realistic.
Right.
And so if you've got a world where your physics exist in such a way that you can break the speed of light and travel at warp speeds. Um, they follow that rule, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so you're going so fast, but you're still only going so fast that you reach places in certain amounts of time
Right.
based on how fast you're traveling. Now, we know exactly the size of our Milky Way galaxy, right? And that is something that Star Trek has been stuck with. Like they don't travel outside of our galaxy until more recently in the latest episode or latest season of Discovery. They
Right.
did travel outside of the Milky Way galaxy. That's
Right.
the first time it's ever happened in Star Trek that I'm
Right.
aware of, or except in I guess there was an episode of Next Generation where the Traveler was messing with the ship's navigation and they wound up billions of light years away. Um but in traveling throughout the galaxy, there's only so far one can go in a certain amount of time. Well, in the span of this movie, they make it from somewhere probably close-ish to Earth. It's got to be in the Beta Quadrant because that's where the Klingon Empire and the Romulan Empire exist, and it's not, and they are not that far from Earth on a galactic scale. But the center of the galaxy is thousands upon thousands of light years away. So how did they just get there? I mean, they didn't just teleport there. They had, like, even at maximum warp. Like, we think about Voyager, right? They're on
Yep.
the opposite side of the galaxy. For them
And
to
they
get
take
back to the Alpha Quadrant, it was
decades.
going to take them 75 years
Yeah.
at maximum warp without stopping.
Right.
So that's the thing. That's one of the things that bothers me
Bill,
about this.
it
Like, suddenly
sounds
they're at the
like
center of the galaxy and they didn't even try.
that's a plot hole
Oh, I
due to
know it
bad
is.
writing.
I wonder why bad writing on Star Trek Five. Never.
Oh, but I do want to give a special thank you to William Shatner for not doing it again.
Yes, thank you, Bill. He did write several books
Yeah.
that are not considered canon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
hey, Bill, thanks for doing what you do. You're one of, geez, three cast members still with us. Keep hanging on, man.
You know what? If I was to go out and do parkour, I would fall on my face and hurt myself. And you know what? I'd get up from that and I'd learn from it to not do it again. And this is, I think, in the same way, but obviously that example is far less bloody and nasty than what happened in Final Frontier. You know, I think Bill learned that lesson. Thank
I
you,
think
Bill.
so too.
To
Way
Bill.
to way to be a learner. All right, folks. That is all we've got for Star Trek Five: The Final Frontier. Although it's not final, because when we come back later this week, we will be talking about Star Trek Six: The Undiscovered Country, and that will wrap up our discussion on the original cast movies with Star Trek. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you'll know whenever we post something new. Uh, Landon, anything you want to say before we jump off here? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, here's the message from your Uncle Bill. Um, you know, if at first you don't succeed, try again, unless you're William Shatner.
In which case, if you don't succeed,
Stop.
just let somebody else take the reins, okay?
Stop.
All right, guys. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Tell your friends about this here podcast. Noah, congratulations on your win. Once again, we will have that graphic novel out to you soon. So you'll have to let us know when you get it and what you think about it, because it's a really good story. And maybe we'll have to do an episode about All Star Superman one of these days. So when that happens, maybe we can get you on here. What I mean, I know he's a minor, but you're in good with his dad, so like we can we can make it
Might be able
happen.
to pull some
What do you
strings.
think? We'll pull some strings. We'll get a special guest on here. Okay.
There'll have to be
All
some
right.
paperwork signed,
An NDA and all that good stuff. All right. That's all the time we got for today. Have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.